Today I'm going to attempt to make an accordion menu with JavaScript. So we'll see how that goes. So first of all, doc type HTML to let the browser know that I'm writing in HTML5. Then I'll put in my HTML tags and then my body tags. Okay, inside the body tags, I'm going to do a div. I'm going to give it a class container so that I can access it using JavaScript by going to not JavaScript, CSS, and then I'll do dot container because we access containers using dots, and then I'll give it a CSS rule, which is made up of a property in purple, so border, and then values such as 5 pixels in thickness, solid line, and then black colored line. There it is. I could also give it a height of 100 VH, vertical height of the screen. To remove the spacing around the container, I can target the body, which contains the container, and then zero out any margin and padding that comes by default with some browsers. And then also, if I set box sizing to border box, that also helps with that. Okay, so that's it. And so then for the container, I'll have my little, let's say, I think I'll do a div and I'll give it a class of menu. And then I'll go and target it using CSS. So I'll do dot menu. And let's see what I could do here. I can do dot menu and then give it a border of 5 pixels solid red. And I can give it a height of, I don't know, 500 pixels. I could save that. Let me open it up in debug mode so I can see what it looks like. Alright, so this is what it's looking like. I'm going to give it a width also, maybe a width of, maybe 600 pixels. Alright, maybe make it smaller. So I could do maybe height 400, save that, reload. Alright, and then maybe this could be 500. Oops. Alright. So then at this point, I want it to be at the center of the screen. So the red box is what I want to be at the center of the screen. So I have to look in what box it is in, and that's the black box. So I'm going to make the black box, which is the container, have a display of flex. So now it becomes a flex container, and then I can use these flex properties such as justify content and set that to a value of center, and that's going to move it horizontally towards the center, so towards the right. And then align items center is going to move this down, right? It's going to move it centered vertically. This won't work if you do not have a height set on the container. If I remove the height, it would go all the way back up because it's going to go towards the center, like vertically of the container. And if the container doesn't have a height, then I mean, it's just going to be at the center, but like at the top. So height is important. All right. So that's my little thing. So inside the menu, I'm gonna have, this is where, not sure what I'm gonna do, so let me think. I want to have kind of like a row. So, and I want them to be made of like some heading and an icon that I can click on so that content appears. So I guess I'll do div. I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet. I'm gonna leave this empty for now. And then this div is going to contain, I think I'll just think of it as a box, maybe. So the box will contain the header. Maybe I'll do a div class header, right? And then I'll actually go here in CSS and say dot header, give this a border of 5 pixels solid blue. And then I'll give this maybe just the class name for box right now because I'm not really sure what to call it. So I'll give this a border as well. Maybe do something like green. So that's kind of that. And then it's going to contain a header and it's going to contain, let's do div class content. So that's where my content's going to be. That's going to be hidden Yeah, so the header, I think I'm gonna do an H1 and it's just gonna say heading. And then I'm also going to do an image, which is gonna be an icon. Um, and it's a self-closing tag, so I don't really need to close that. Let me search for plus sign, although I could do this with HTML, but I want to kind of do this with an image just in case I want to ever change that. So I think I'm going to right click, copy image address, and then paste the source into here, the image source. And then let me give these things borders also. So I'll give this, let's see, border, I don't know what color, pink. But I want to make sure that I only target the dot header border. And then I'll do dot header and then I'll target the image, give that a border as well. And I don't know, okay, brown, there we go. So this is kind of what it's looking like. So my idea is that I have those two things. So I have my div header, which is the blue box. Then the blue box is going to contain the H1 and the image. And then the content is going to contain just the content. So I'm going to do a p tag, lorem tab to generate random text. This is what it's going to look like. I believe I don't have, let's see, content. Let me give that a border. Let's do orange. All right, so that's what it is. So essentially, I want my header, because it's a blue box, I need the pink box and the brown box, which is the heading and the plus sign, to be side by side. And so because I know that both of these things are inside the blue box, which is the header, I'm going to make the header and give it a display of flex, because by default, there's this property called flex direction that is set to row. So it moves all of the flex items to be in the same row, as you can see. So in this case, the blue box, if that's a display of flex, it's a flex container, then that means the pink box and the brown box, which is the heading and the plus sign, are going to be flex items, and they're going to have to follow this rule in which the flex direction that they're going, the way that they're aligned, has to be in the same row versus a column, which is what they were before, like on top of each other. So by default, it's row, and you don't really need to even write this, right? Because again, by default, it is row. Now, the way that I want it to work is I definitely need the image to be smaller. So I already targeted the image, so I can just give this a width of 25, maybe 30 pixels, and a height of 30 pixels, right? Just so I can see it that way. Maybe 25 would be good. Right? So that's kind of my little thing there. And then I want them to be, let's see, let me look at my HTML. So I have my header, which is the blue box, and it contains the H1 and it contains the image. But I need, why is there spacing is my question. Maybe what I need to do is go into the header and then I'll do justify content and then put space in between. So there's space in between the pink box and the brown box. But then I want there to be not too much space between both of the boxes, like from the header. So I want them to be kind of closer together. So I'll give the header a padding of 0 pixels from the top and bottom, but like let's say 20 pixels from left and right. But then I'm not really sure why the whole plus sign is at the top. Like, why is that at the top? I guess I could do align items center, and maybe that should work. There we go. Yeah. So align items center aligns all of my flex items to the center, and that's kind of what I'm going for here. All right, so this is what it is. So I have my green box, which is my box. I have my blue box, which is my header, which contains the H1 and the icon. Then I have my orange box, which is the content that is going to either disappear or appear as I click on the plus sign, the icon. All right, so I'm gonna do only one for now, just to kind of get the idea. So then at this point, here's where JavaScript comes in. So my thing is, I want to have the plus sign when I click on it for this to appear. And for it to appear, it has to not be there in the first place. So actually, let me go to CSS and find where I have my content box and give it a display of none so that it just appears, right? And then what happens is I want to go to JavaScript and I want to work with the plus sign and the content. So I'll have to access both of those elements. So I'll create a variable called the plus sign, and I'll set it equal to the plus sign in HTML. And I'll do that by accessing the document. So the document is basically a page that has all of the elements but as objects. So it's basically a copy of your HTML page that your browser makes. So the reason why your browser makes a copy of your HTML page and we can't just access your HTML page, from the get-go is because JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language and it only works with objects. And so your HTML page is filled with divs and H1s and images and p tags that are just elements. And so what your browser does, it just converts all of those elements into objects and puts them into this document called the document object model, which you can access through JavaScript by using the document word, right? Um, and so that's kind of it. And so now JavaScript is allowed to work with those elements because they're not elements anymore, they're objects. And so that's what the document is. So you can access those objects now with functions like get element by ID. So ideally, we would do like better things like give it a class name or whatever. But just for teaching purposes, I like to just give everything IDs because it's so much easier. Anything that I'm going to access actually from JavaScript, I give IDs, not give everything IDs. So I'll give the image an ID of icon, and I'll give the content, which is also what I'm going to access, an ID of content. All right, so in JavaScript, I'll target the element that has the ID of icon. So that means it's going to target the image. So if I do console.log, which is basically the equivalent of print in Python, you just see it in the um, console. I'm going to change this to icon. All right, if I do console.log and then Control-Shift-I, I'm going to be able to go to the console and developer tools, and I'll see that the image is outputted. It works, so it's outputting the image. So I'll do the same thing for the content. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, just change this to the content, and then change this one to the content. So I'm accessing the variable that has, not the variable, excuse me, the element that has the ID of content, which is the literal content. And so now if I save that again and I do Control-Shift-I, I'll be able to see that not only is the icon outputted in the console, but the content as well. And I can see what it is, right? So that's what it is. Don't really need this. That was just for showing purposes. So now I have my icon and my content. Now what I want to do is create a function that basically says what I want to do. So I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it on icon click. So when I click on the icon, basically, and I'm going to set it equal to a function, and I'll do this. And whatever is inside the curly brackets is what I want to happen. So what do I want to happen? Basically, when I click on the icon, I want the content. So I'll access the content display to become block, right? So right now the content has a display of none. If I set this to display block, it's going to appear, right? So that's kind of what I want to happen. So what I'll do is, for that to happen is I have to access the CSS because this is a CSS property. So to access CSS, I'll have to do style. So that's how you access CSS. And then you access the property you want. So for me, that's display. And then I can change it by setting it equal to whatever I want, but inside parentheses. So whatever CSS you were going to write, just put it inside those parentheses, I mean quotation marks. So for me, that would be block, and then semicolon. And that's all there is to it. for the function. So now I just created a function. I didn't really tell I didn't really create any relationship between the icon and the function, right? I haven't told the icon, hey, I want this to happen when something happens. And that's what I'm going to do now. I have to access the icon and I'm going to have to add an event listener. So the icon is listening for when something happens, for when a certain event happens. And that event is your first parameter or your first argument, and that's going to be click. So when I click on the icon, then what I want to do, I'll put in the second parameter, which is the on icon click function. So now basically what this is saying is, hey, the icon is going to be listening for when it's clicked on, and when it is clicked on, it's going to call the on icon click function, which is just going to change the display of the content to be block. So if I save this and I click on the plus sign, I can see it now, which is perfect, right? But here's a problem. What if I want to unclick on it? If I click on it again, nothing happens. So that would be a whole other function that I would have to write. I'll actually create variable on icon close, I guess, for another function, and then click on this. So here's the thing. This is very like how do you say, like hard coded? Like it's not the best way to do this. It's just really one way to do it. Um when I click on it, it pops up. When I click on it again, it does nothing, right? Because I haven't told it what to do. But here's the thing. I can't really tell it to I can't make a function that says when I click on it again to change the display back to none, because then it's going to overwrite this function. So what happens is I have to create another image. This is really not the best way to do this, but it's just one way. So what I'll do is I'll just copy, actually, I'll just go to my, where is it? I'll go to my HTML and then just literally copy this, paste that in there, and then just give it icon close, an ID of icon close. And then what I'll do is I'll go into my CSS and then I'll just target the hashtag icon close and then, whoops, and then give it a display of none. So then this is only going to pop up when, this should only pop up when the, interesting, spelt it wrong. Okay. This should only pop up when when I click on this, and then this one should disappear. So what happens is I need to target these icons now, or at least the other one. So I'll do a variable called icon close. That's going to show up when I pop up the content. So I'll do ID, put that in there. So now what I can say, okay, when I click on the function, I want the normal icon, CSS style, not CSS, CSS display property to become none. So I want it to disappear, right? So I want it to disappear. So when I click on it, let me save this. Oh, it's because I have this here. And what happens is nothing happens. So I think I have to go here to the header and give it a z index of maybe 1 so that it's actually above. No, that doesn't work. What if I just change the order that it's in so I can put this one after this one and then remove the z index? Interesting, I'm not able to click on it. So display none. What if I give this a z index of 1 and then give this a z index of 0? Let's see, icon close, icon style display none. Interesting. Oh, it's because I didn't put the by in here. Isn't that great? There we go. All right, so now it works. Let me go and put everything that I had back in here. I was like, why is it not working? So this should go away, this should go away. Reload. Okay, beautiful. So now when I click on the button, it disappears because I told it to disappear. So then what I want to happen is I want the icon close button to appear. So I'll do style, display, and I'll set this equal to block so that I can now make another function that has to deal with this button. When I click specifically on this button, then the content disappears. So now this button happens, right? Or appears, and I can just do variable on close on icon close click. I want a function to happen, and I can just say, let's see, I want the content, right, display to become none again because I want it to disappear. And then it's basically the opposite of this function here. So I literally can copy this and just do the opposite. So I want the icon, the normal icon, to have a display of block again, to appear again, and then I want this one to disappear. So now if I save this and I click on the plus sign and then I click off it, nothing happens because I haven't told the icon close to like what to look out for. So I can just do icon close, add an event listener, and then tell it to listen for when it's clicked on, and when it's clicked on, I need this function to be called. Save that. Now if I click on it and then I unclick it, it should work. So now I have my little accordion here. So now this is just for one little accordion. If there's multiple, you'll have to use class, get element by class name, class names, which is a whole different thing. I guess I'll do that in another, I'll do that later, tomorrow, whatever. But yeah, this is kind of the idea. Um, yeah, so that's a little toggle there, little accordion folder. Um, I'll save this like this. I'm not even going to style it because I want to kind of save this for instructional purposes. Let me name this instruction version. Okay. But yeah, this is one way of doing it. It's very a I can't even speak, hard-coded way of doing it. Not the best, because I did create another image, very unnecessary. I know there's different ways to do it, like over here. I was searching up like to do it with multiple ones, and like they use an active class, and I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I know what an active class is, I just don't know how it works with this. So I guess I'll research that and maybe learn how to do that, and then I'll work on that. So, yep, that's it for today. Bye.